being an ancient person at this point, my story may plunge the capacity of my memory, but it starts in May 1974 when I graduated at 20 years old from Indiana University in Bloomington. Now, I did that for a couple of reasons. One, my father had a breakdown in the fall of 1972 and got 12 shock treatments, the result of which I committed myself to finishing college in 3 years because my brothers would be starting in the fall of 1974, and I wanted to be done and gone by then. The problem was, in the spring of 1973, before that summer school outing, my first love's parents found her birth control pills, and there was a little family crisis there that ended with her going to Martha's Vineyard for the summer. And I visited her a couple times there, but it was the beginning of the end for us. And by the spring of 1974, in addition to my father's breakdown, there was my break up with Shen. So by May, I was pretty burnt out. I have to say that. I won't say it's lights out, but burnt out's pretty close. I had no plans. I didn't have the energy to be applying to graduate school that a lot of my friends were, and I was just at loose ends. So my lease was going through July, so I hung around in Bloomington, wrote letters to relatives that give me money for graduation, cadged dinners off friends, and just really had no idea what I was going to be doing. Then, an old high school buddy of mine, Andy Pierce, comes through. He's been in Germany for 2 years, and he decided to buy a Volkswagen bus, which in 1974 was still a pretty cool thing to have, and to recruit some people to take a drive west with him to California, of course. Go west, young man, go west. So, turning out the lights of my apartment in Bloomington for the last time, we headed off, and the first stop was Colorado. Andy and Katina, one of the people who was with us, wanted to try Rifle, Colorado, because they heard there was some work out there. And since I had my graduation money, I didn't have to work. And I had a friend that was studying at the Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado, who I thought I'd spend some time visiting. So they dropped me in Denver. I hitchhiked up to Boulder and spent, well, the first 2 weeks, my friend Christopher Manojlovic, weird last name, but whatever, he'd moved to the place next door to the Cloud9 Co-op in Boulder, Colorado. So I got his room free for 2 weeks and then paid rent for the next month. So I was in Cloud9 Co-op for a good 6 weeks in Boulder, Colorado, which was fun. A wild, wild place to be. It was not a particularly cool summer. It was warm even in Colorado, even in the foothills of the Rockies. So after we did all our dinner chores, we'd all go out in the backyard. It was an old frat house and play volleyball. It's always the boys versus the girls. Well, it was a particularly hot July night, and the boys started taking their shirts off. So the feminist girls said, fuck you, that's not fair. And they started taking their shirts off too. The result of which was the girls started winning all of the volleyball games and the boys didn't really care. But that was part of the fun of the summer. The other thing though, the real thing I remember, the most amazing thing I've ever seen in the natural world, there was lights out in Boulder one night because there was a huge electrical storm. We climbed up on the roof of Cloud9 Co-op and watched over the Colorado Eastern Plains this huge thunderstorm across hundreds of miles of the Colorado Plain, and you could smell the ozone as the chain lightning would like sizzle across hundreds of miles. It was just amazing. Well, Andy and Katina didn't find much work in Raffle they call it, not rifle, and they came and picked me up. So we were heading the rest of the way to California. Andy had an aunt that was in a theater company out in Palo Alto, so I figured I'd find my way down to my aunt's house in Pacific Palisades, which is north of LA, and that'd be my final stop. Okay. Now, again, like I said, it's a warm summer, so and it's a VW bus, which wasn't air conditioned, so we figured we'd do a lot of our driving at night. Well, after a couple days, you're losing track of night and day anyway. But I do remember coming into one of these amazing mountain valleys. You could see like 50 miles across with ski chalets dotting the hillsides with a Marshall Tucker band playing on the cassette player on the VW bus. So just some amazing stuff, but you're getting tireder and tireder and tireder. you've been drinking caffeine, maybe taking some white cross tops you catch at a truck stop, smoking cigarettes, eating candy bars. I was finally like sticking my fingernails in my leg so that pain would keep me awake a little bit longer. But I've learned, as being a college professor and a person in psychology for many, many years, that there's something called REM rebound. When you don't get enough sleep, you don't recover all your sleep, but you recover your REM, your rapid eye movement dreaming sleep. And if you don't, you start to get REM intrusions in your conscious life. So I'm going across one of these mountain passes, and in a VW bus, you get down to first gear all the time. And I'm practically nodding off, and I'm seeing some little men running across the road that are kind of the day glow outlines of their bodies. And I know that I shouldn't like watch where they're going because I need to keep my eyes on the road. And it's getting like a little disturbing. Then the engine starts missing and the lights start flickering. Now, if I turn off the lights, then the engine kind of recovers, but then I can't see, so I have to turn the light. So I wake up, you guys wake up, we're in trouble. I don't know what to do. It's this mountain road, we don't know where we are, we have to keep going. So we used flashlights, finally found this junkyard on the side of the road, and I wake up slumped on the steering wheel. Andy's in the back banging on it with his Volkswagen Guide for Idiots, and he said, "Oh, I just had to tighten up the fan belt." We made it to Palo Alto. I made it down to LA. And that year, from my aunt's place in Pacific Palisades, I watched Richard Nixon resign in August of 1974. I watched in April of 1975, Operation Frequent Wind, which was the helicopters removing people from the Saigon embassy and then finally being shoved into the South China Sea. Another kinds of lights out of the Vietnam experience that the US had there. End of story.